Hey guys, Gary J here. This is the 6.1 liter Hemi. This is a SRT 2008, and these are really nice cars. The 2008 all came with this carbon fiber striping on the hood. It did not cross over the top of the car or to the trunk. And when you look at the Hemi, you'll see the 6.1, and really a beautiful engine, and I mean it's really clean. Whoever designed this, Dodge and all, they did a really clean job of putting everything in its place. Looks like somebody with OCD or something, you know. Everything looks perfectly in its place. And just so well done, you know. It's just, that's one of the great things about it too. But a couple of things you can do on adding horsepower to these engines right here. A lot of things you can do, but the cheapest route on the 6.1 liter, this one has a newer throttle body to it, and this is the BBK 85mm power plus. It's got a spacer right here, that red. Now the new throttle body, of course, lets it get more air into the engine, and BBK has a video on this particular throttle body. And BBK also sells a cold air intake like this one, but this is a K&N. They have their own cold air intake system. And K&N is about $100 cheaper than BBK. I think they're probably pretty much the same as far as efficiency. I don't think there's a big difference between the BBK. Not that big a difference anyway. But these engines come with 425 horsepower engine horsepower. And if you want to kick that up a little bit, you can buy the BBK throttle body. This is about $500 for the throttle body. Again, 85mm throttle body, whereas I think the original on here was probably 70mm maybe. You have to check that for me because I'm not 100% on that. But what BBK did, they did a video of the 6.1 liter, and that's important. No, it's 6.1 liter, not just 6.4 or 5.7, but the 6.1 liter. And they did a dyno on the stock 6.1 SRT, just like this one, and got the rear wheel horsepower, which I forgot what it was, but then they took off the factory throttle body and put the BBK one on and checked it on the dyno, and you got about 12.5, I think 13 horsepower increase on the rear wheel with this throttle body. And I thought that was very honest of BBK, because a lot of places would say, well, if you put this on, you're going to get 20-30 extra horsepower. That's not the case. You know, that sounds pretty reasonable when you think about it. And so they then took the factory intake breather system and put the BBK cold air intake, which looks similar to this right here. Looks similar, which is about $300, and this is about $500 for the throttle body. So anyway, they took the BBK cold air intake, put that on, which is very similar to this, and checked it again on the dyno, and they saw about again about 12.5, 13 extra horsepower rear wheel with the cold air intake. Again, I think that's real honest of BBK, because BBK, you know, is letting you know exactly what you're getting on this particular engine. Now, if you had a 5.7 or 6.4 liter Hemi, it may be different on the horsepower increase or decrease. So it can kind of vary. But at least I know on this engine what you should be getting. So, you know, with the cold air intake, there's so many myths about these cold air intakes. Some are saying you get 20, 30 extra horsepower by putting this on. You're not going to get that on a 6.1 liter Hemi. You may get it on some other engine, but not on this engine. I mean, the Dyno is the proof of that. So, by getting the BBK 85mm Power Plus throttle body, get the spacer and the cold air intake. If you want to afford pay for the BBK one, that's good. You should get 25, 26 more horsepower with those two items. Again, that's 500. Might as well say like $200 to $300 for cold air intake. So that's not too bad for 25 extra horsepower. So you basically, you know, if that's rear wheel horsepower, 25 extra horsepower rear wheel, multiply that times 15%, they'll give you your engine horsepower rating, which should push it up 450, 451 horsepower from these two items here. The other thing is on this 6.1 is a Diablo oil catch can. And that's about what, $150, $160 for one of those. And another thought too is like I've seen these computer chips. I looked into those. Those do not work. The computer chip system is a scam. It's a computer chip system where you plug it into one of your outlets or whatever, or tie it into your engine. And it's supposed to give you 20 to 30 to 40 extra horsepower. And these computer chips, I see a lot of them coming from China, places like that, and they run about $25 to $40 for this high performance computer chip system. And I've seen the dynos on some of those, and all it is it doesn't add any horsepower at all. All it does, one guy took one apart, and all it had was a little tiny transistor in it that did absolutely nothing except turn a light on. So it made it look like it was running the computer chip. And so those are big, big scams. So don't waste your money on those and research them real well. Now, if you want to increase your horsepower, you know, you add another cam to it, a different, better cam, and the headers, whether the long headers, short headers, and stuff like that, and get a Diablo tuner. Now that's a whole different thing when you get into Diablo tuners and so forth. To tune this engine and then put it on a dyno and have somebody tune it for you and set it up with the Diablo tuner system, then you can get some appreciable difference in the horsepower. And a catback exhaust system on these, you're looking at like what, $2,000 for each one of those items, like a cam or the catback exhaust system or the headers. So you can put some money in these real quick. But it's not bad if you get 450 horsepower out of this. You're not far away from the newer SRTs, which have 485 horsepower stock. I know one guy, he put some add-ons on his and Diablo tuner and all that stuff too, and dynoed it, and he gets about 80 more horsepower out of his Scat Pack. So you can add a bunch of money to these things if you're not careful. But this one runs pretty good to me. If I was going to get any more horsepower, I would just buy a Hellcat.